Hi, good afternoon. Hope you still have some attention left. One of the last panels of the last day. We're gonna try not to we're gonna try to entertain you for a few minutes before the drinks. Standing between the drinks is a very hard position, right? We are here and we try to do this quick. So the idea is to discuss why choosing Europe or why going somewhere else rather than the Valley, which is the golden dream for most founders and most startups. So I'll start with this question: why choose Europe? Why you guys gonna defend your countries, right? Germany and Portugal. This would be a good football match, but why choose Europe? Why choose Germany or choose Portugal to establish or to internationalize a startup?
Well, I can start. Good afternoon to you all. I think, well, Europe has 500 million potential customers for a start. So comparing to the United States, for instance, it's a much larger market. If you consider European Union, because if you consider geographical Europe, you have 700 million inhabitants. So you cannot miss Europe if you want to go global. That's something that you have to take into account. And after that, I think Europe has a lot to offer, a lot of diversity, multiculturalism, heritage, a lot of great economic industrial groups of the world are based in Europe, and they are looking to startups in order to innovate and to reinvent themselves. So it's a very good bet to go and to try to connect your business as a startup to an existent company, an existing big corp that already exists in Europe, that already has its own market, that needs to innovate, to be connected with new ideas, new founders, and new startups. Also, Europe has a lot of public support to entrepreneurship. So you have to look after what you want and see each country offers the best that suits your business model and also your funding necessities. I can talk a little bit later about Portugal that has specific advantages and specific supports and incentives to entrepreneurship. But I would say that all over Europe, you will find a very vibrant startup ecosystem that is really doing a great job in order to put Europe as a great destination for new ventures in the world.
Well, good afternoon also from my side. Well, I fully agree with you. Like Europe is after China and the US, it's like the biggest single market in the world. You were mentioning all the public support, you were mentioning the cultural heritage, but there is also, of course, we have like a lot of industry partners and SMEs, because when you're a startup, you're looking forward to cooperate, of course, with SMEs or industries, big corporates. And when it comes to the SMEs, they are lacking a lot of time. They are lacking a digital strategy, and they are really looking forward to innovative solutions from startups coming from all over the world. And there's really a need for them to buy these technologies from startups. So there is also a private sector, an industry sector, which is really looking forward to and is really looking forward to have startups from abroad coming to Europe and cooperating with them.
Good. So, as Antonio mentioned, what are your countries offering as you are representing them here? What is Portugal offering? What is Germany offering for those founders or those companies that maybe want to go?
Well, I would say that Portugal has been through a revolution in terms of entrepreneurship comparing to 10 years ago. I will just give you a couple of numbers. 10 years ago, the annual investment by international VCs in Portugal was about 50 million a year. In 2021, 1.5 billion euros were invested in Portugal, in Portuguese startups, by international VCs. So you can imagine the difference that this makes. We have, in terms of relative proportion, we have more than the double of the unicorns that Spain and France, for instance, have, Italy also. That means that the number of unicorns divided by the gross domestic product or the population in Portugal is really higher than other countries in Europe. This means that we take care of this community. And starting up a business, as you know, is all about community. The support of the community is really relevant. But founders cannot do their job if they don't have specific advantage that translate into income and to profit at the end of the year. And Portugal last year legislated a new startup law that for the first time has a legal definition of startup and scale-up. We are the only country in the world that has a law that defines startup and scale-up. And this is necessary. Why? Well, I don't know if you know, but for instance, in Brazil, it's really hard, or in other countries in Europe, it's really hard to know what exactly is a startup. So we started by doing that because it's important to deploy public grants and public supports and incentives to this specific type of companies. Together with this new law, we launched a special fiscal regime to stock option plans that it's the most competitive in Europe. A tax rate of only 14% applicable on the moment of liquidity. That is when you change the stocks per cash. It's the best that you have in Europe. We also have a special regime that if you want to recruit foreign workers to work to your startup in Portugal, then the workers, if they are employed by a startup, benefit from a 10-year, 20% rate IRS during that period, during 10 years. So it's an important incentive to attract and to retain talent. Also, we have a network in the country of 138 incubators that really help founders and startups to do their job. I'm the executive director of Startup Portugal. We coordinate this network of incubators in Portugal, and they are really doing an important job in connecting entrepreneurs with investors, with local communities, with universities, and with the other stakeholders in the field. So these are some of the reasons why you should consider Portugal as your destination. Obviously, we are seen by Brazilians as a good door of entry to Europe. We speak the same language, Portuguese, so culturally we are very, very close. We are the 7th most safest country in the world. So we have a strategic localization, Western Europe, halfway to the United States. We are the 6th most proficiency country in terms of English speaking. So we also speak very well the international language of businesses. And of course we have 300 days of sunshine a year. So what are you waiting for?
You let
what are you waiting for?
That's going to be tough to match, Jochen.
Well,
Jochen, I'm calling him Joaquin because Jochen in German is Joaquin. So Joaquin, this is going to be hard to match.
Well, actually, yeah, we have less than 300 days of sunshine. I have to admit.
Maybe fewer days.
However, we also have something to offer. So our government, our federal government, passed a startup strategy 2 years ago. And there's a lot of interesting things inside it. But first of all, the fact that the federal government passed this startup strategy shows that startup policy is right at the center of German politics, and that it's a key priority of the federal government, and that Germany is also an attractive country to make business and to run a startup. And like the key elements of the startup strategy, it's first of all, it's funding. It's all about funding. We have a lot of public support also. We have, for example, we have launched a future fund with a volume of 10 billion euro. That's only the money from the public side, and there's also coming like another 20 billion euros coming from the private side. So, and they are investing in deep tech technologies, in climate technologies. Well, I know there is a lot of there are a lot of companies here, a lot of startups who are dealing with renewables and technologies, energy technologies. It's a big market in Germany, and there's a lot of public money for that. And another element also of the startup strategy is talents, attracting talents from all over the world. And that's the reason why the German government just recently or last year passed a new immigration law, and now it's much easier to come to Germany and to get a job visa for Germany. And it's also for some jobs it's not even necessary to speak German actually. So you can come to Germany, apply for a work visa when you just speak English, for example. So this is one thing. The other thing is, well, I already mentioned the German SMEs. They are, you know, there are a lot of SMEs, like I think 3 million SMEs in Germany. They're very strong, but they are a bit conservative, and that's why they are looking forward to cooperating with startups that bring the innovation to their companies. So I think, well, and what we're doing in the startup strategy actually is. We have a system of hubs in Germany. We call it digital hubs, and in these hubs we're trying to strengthen the cooperation between the SMEs and startups, and try to do a kind of a matchmaking. And yeah, this is also something we are offering all around Germany in all industries and in all sectors. And yeah, there's much more in the German startup strategy. We also have a website. You can have a look in that. But yeah, that's the startup strategy in a nutshell.
Good. When do you think, when would you say is the best moment to consider this move, going abroad, right? Seeking internationalization. Some companies, especially startups, they do that if they get some customer, if they get a customer, a big customer, or if they get sign-ups from other countries, and they try to follow the customer, right? Is that the best strategy, or from what you see from startups that move into your countries? Is that the best strategy? Is that a good strategy? Or which is the best strategy? When is the best moment? How do you have to plan for this step?
Okay, well, for Portuguese startups, I think the right moment is moment zero. Because like in the old days, we are a very entrepreneurial country. Because of the size of our economy and of our country, we need to think abroad and to think internationally from the day zero. So I would guess that if you have in mind a business, and that business, that's how we define startup in Portugal legally. So if your business is innovative and it's easily scalable, then you are a startup. So I think any startup should think about scaling from scratch. If you have a local market that it's big, like Brazil,
Yeah.
like the United States, well, if you consider European Union to be your local market also, then I think you should think about going abroad when you have your concept proved, and when you have sufficient resources, talent, and money to do so. Internationalization is a very, very risky game. Startup is a risky environment, but internationalization is hyper risky. If you are thinking about internationalization and you are thinking about the budget to do so, you might as well double it, because there's a lot of things that will not go the way you planned, and it's very important to have the right support from the beginning. So I would say that if you are in a small economy, start thinking about international from day zero. If you are in a big economy, test your product, gather your talent, gather your funding, and think about internationalization with a lot of support. Go to the other countries using the other countries' way of doing business, not your way of doing business. So support yourself with what the Destiny country does and plan it very well.
Well, I completely agree with you. Well, it depends on the situation of the startup, of course, and on the market you're in. However, we can offer any startups at any stage. We can offer something to you or something to the startups when they come. So we offer also public support for university students that are thinking about founding a startup. We have like a grant program for, it's called Exist, when you are coming from university, and then at later stages when you grow a bit, we have other public support. So, well, I would say it depends, as you.
I would just add maybe that it's important for you to know the markets and use, for instance, programs. I guess in Germany you have the same type of thing, but for instance, inside of Portugal, we take annually almost 100 startups to meet other geographies and other countries. And when preparing that, we schedule meetings with the relevant entities of these countries, the stakeholders. And this is a good way of knowing in practical terms, meeting with the right people. So use your public support when available to go into international missions, business abroad missions like in Startup Portugal. And this type of support is really important in order to know and to test your product abroad.
Yeah, here in Brazil, Apex does a good job doing that, taking companies to international conferences, those kind of meetings. So being close, if you're thinking about it, talking to Apex and knowing what they're doing and getting on their missions and what they're planning, could be a good start. Yeah, good tip. And talk a little bit about your ecosystems, right? The panel mentions ecosystems as well. So we spoke what you're offering, some tips, but locally, if I want to think about going there or want to know a little bit about the markets, how is the German startup scene right now, and how is the Portuguese startup scene right now? You mentioned some VC numbers, but where are the opportunities? Which are the main trends in Portugal, and which are the opportunities, the main trends in Germany?
Well, I would say that, Germany, we have now a long history of renewable energy. I think the word Energiewende is pretty well known anywhere in the world. So there is a lot of public support, of course, for all technologies that are related to climate change and to renewables. And so I think this is a very good time to do business in this field as a startup. Well, AI, of course, I think that applies to every country.
He said AI. We had AI in our panel. Bingo.
Well, there's much more. It's about agri-tech, for example. I know there is a lot of cooperation even now between Brazilian startups and German companies when it comes to agri-tech and food, and that's also something very interesting between our countries. What we can develop.
Well, in Portugal, we have a vibrant scene in areas like health tech, fintech, agri-tech also. In terms of renewables, we are one of the most developed countries in Europe. We are meeting the targets of the Paris Agreement 5 years before the date scheduled. So we are really 80% of the energy consumed in Portugal already comes from renewable sources. So we are really a top of class, I'd say, example of that, but also in areas like blockchain, cryptocurrency. We still didn't over-regulate these areas. It's very important not to spoil the market by doing that. And so we are really watching a vibrant and very dynamic scene in these areas. But I would say that we are very agnostic in terms of verticals. We have a lot of them. I would characterize the startup ecosystem in Portugal like an example to other companies. I would say the rest of Europe the same. For you to know, startups in Portugal have grown in an average of 25% a year in the last 3 years. They sell to international markets 65% of what they produce, comparing to 14% in the average of the SMEs, and they pay to their workers 60% above the average of the payroll of an average SME. So they are really an example. That's why we have to put public policies in place to support these companies. If we have more companies like this in Europe, not only in Portugal, I say that the economic growth of Europe would be much, much higher. That's why we need to support these companies, and Portugal is doing so.
And how you see, your countries have gone out of the VC winter yet? Or how you see the overall market for startups and venture capital? Is it sunny already, or we're still frosty?
Well, it's not 300 days of sunshine yet, but I think it's getting better. You know, your inflation is going down. Maybe there's something going on with regard to the interest rate. I think it's getting a bit better, and also there is more and more public support now that can bridge a bit the gap that we are facing right now. So I'm still very optimistic.
Well, I think we are going through a tough phase in the last 1 year and a half, 2 years. I would say that until now, this year, we have already raised the same amount of VC funding than the whole 2023. So I think we are going to be better this year, but still maybe lowest than 2021. It was the peak high of VC investment. In what relates to let's say, public or to VC funding, I would say that in Europe we must do an effort to put pension funds to invest more in the venture capital world. That's something that we need to focus on in order to retain good scale-ups and unicorns in Europe. That's something where we are working on. There's a lot of work to do in that field, and try to attract big funds, institutional and pension funds, to put more money in VCs.
So thank you very much, guys. We made it. You're free to go. Good to go. Is there a happy hour at your booths? Several. Okay. Thank you, guys. Hope you had a good event. See you next year. Bye bye.